DNVR Broncos Live, presented by DraftKings Sportsbook, the goats of all sportsbooks. Check out DraftKings Sportsbook. Use that code DNVR when you do. And we are coming to you live from Studio A here at the DNVR bar, where the A stands for adios.
Oh, that's pretty good. Wow, that's like a double because you were in Mexico.
Yeah.
Wow.
Exactly.
That's pretty good.
I mean, he had a week to think
Right.
about it.
That is true. That is
Not
true.
too much credit.
Just
Yeah,
sitting
came in
there.
sharp on the day after
I was
vacation.
just sitting there on the
Congrats.
beach for 5 days being like, what is Studio A going to stand for when I get back?
So the
were
question
just-
is, did you just think about one day, or do you have the rest of the week planned out?
Oh, I just thought about one day over and over.
Well, you crushed it.
Adios, Jim Harbaugh. It was nice knowing you. According to my sources, the NFL determined that would just be too much corny for one franchise and just shut it down straight up. And honestly, I agree with their decision.
Wow.
Oh, man. Disappointing. What a bummer that he's out.
Yeah, well, apparently Henry can't be disappointed, right?
No,
I know. It was
he hates
great
Jim
timing
Harbaugh.
for me. That was the exact day they should have done it, when I was at my very lowest on Jim Harbaugh. Because I'm sure I would have come back today and said, like, actually, no, I'm all the way back in. He's back to number 1 on the board. But now, no, he was at the bottom. He's gone. Never thinking about him again.
Whenever one of you guys has an outlandish take when I'm not on the show, I'll get a DM from someone being like, you'll never believe what Henry or Zach said today. You got to get back there and get them in line.
Oh
And
my
yesterday it was
God.
Henry somehow flipped Jim Harbaugh from number 1 to number 4 on his list.
Not number 4.
No, I think he put him in number 8.
a close number
Yeah.
2.
Oh,
No, I just said it's David Shaw was that day. I was like, you know what? I'm kind of all in. He just feels like the safe, easy candidate. And that's what I was looking
Here's
for.
what Henry said, that he could come in, I quote him, be the next Urban Meyer, win 2 games, and be out.
wow.
That doesn't really sound like a number 2 candidate
No,
right there. That
I
sounds like
didn't-
a number 8.
I didn't think it was possible. I mean, no, I did think it was possible. I didn't think it was likely. There's just like that small chance that he just goes in there and flames out immediately. That I don't think that some of these other candidates have.
There was no chance of that.
I disagree.
So
What do you think, RK?
I was always a little bit lower on Jim Harbaugh than you guys. The big issue here is the Broncos came out with really strong wording, and at the time I was concerned by this, where you have the report come out that's like the Broncos are swinging for the fences or whatever, metaphor they used. And I thought to myself, okay, well, now you've set the expectations at a certain place for the fans, and if you fall below them, then you're going to have an issue. Sorry for coming in with a Buffs comp right away, but no one ever expected the Buffs to get a coach of the quality of Coach Prime.
Welcome back, RK.
And-
feels nice now.
Exactly. And so when it happened, everyone was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
I can't believe
Yeah.
that this just happened.
Set low expectations for what? To be
Under
blown-
promise, over deliver.
Yeah.
And the Broncos have done the opposite. They said, we are going to get a top tier coach. And now there's only one left.
Yep.
And so you've kind of backed yourself into a corner. And I don't know if this ownership group is the type of people to just say, okay, well, now we have to get Sean Payton because we said we would. So whatever it takes, get him. Or if they're going to have to back off and say, okay, well, we always thought Dan Quinn was a top tier candidate. I don't know what you guys are talking about. It was Jim Harbaugh, Sean Payton, and Dan Quinn. Like, that's the upper echelon of coaches. And so that's where I worry for the Broncos here is, you're kind of in a one-man show now.
Exactly. Yeah. This is a one-man race right now in terms of that perspective and how it's been framed. And you know who framed it that way, Ryan? The Broncos did.
Yes,
they
of
were the
course.
ones that came out and dropped the ultra aggressive to Adam Schefter right when the coaching search was about to start. They were the ones that just kept pushing this through different outlets. And so they are the ones that put themselves in this position. And so I do believe in order for this coaching search not to be a disappointment to the fans, now that doesn't mean anything at the end of the day, but it is how it's going to be perceived for months until the season actually starts. They have to get Sean Payton or else this is going to be disappointing. And I know some people are going to be high on Dan Quinn. I know some people that are also going to be like, wow, he couldn't even beat out Nathaniel Hackett last year. Now he's the guy, a leftover. So if they get Sean Payton, it's going to be like, okay, they got the big hire. If not, it's going to be a lot of mixed emotions.
The Broncos should set high expectations, though. Like, it's one thing for Colorado to be like, yeah, we'll see what we can do, because they've had 2 winning seasons in the last 20 years. When you're the Denver Broncos, you have to set the bar high. You have to say, yeah,
one winning season in the last 7 years.
It's true. But then what
Same
happened
amount as
before
the
that for
Buffs.
40 years before?
No, for sure.
And so when you are the Broncos, you don't have a choice but to say, yes, we are going to go get the best head coach, because that's just what you do when you're a great organization like that. And if you want to set the standards lower, that's a bad look on them.
It's not about internally. You're right. They should have those high standards. But as soon as you said it publicly, you shifted everyone. Like, I even had to check myself, because I thought back to 1 year ago today, sitting on this set, I was saying Dan Quinn is a good candidate. So I have to look myself in the mirror and say, is Dan Quinn a good candidate or not? If I thought he was a year ago, why would I have changed my mind when, the Cowboys still had a great defense and et cetera, et cetera? So for me, personally, I'm able to look back and say, all right, I still believe Dan Quinn is a strong candidate to be head coach of the Broncos. But a year ago, fans did feel that way. And now, because the ownership publicly allowed it to get out that they want what was the word they used?
Ultra aggressive.
Ultra aggressive
to get a top tier head coach.
It was to get whatever candidate they want.
We've heard the big swings phrase too.
Right. Nick Saban's name was thrown in the report.
Bill Belichick's
name was thrown in the report. So, that's where the issue is. They just didn't need to come out and allow that line of wording to get out, because now Dan Quinn, who again 1 year ago, if they hired him, we would have been saying, hey, that's a good candidate. And I'm still trying to keep reminding myself that for the fans, it's gone. I mean, I saw someone tweeted us yesterday. They're like, I'd rather them just hire internally than hire Dan Quinn.
Yeah.
And it's like, this is your fault, Broncos, because you put the fans' expectations.
It is. And Henry, that's where I disagree with you saying that the Broncos had to do this. They absolutely did not have to. We knew that they were going to be aggressive, but when they come out and through their avenues say that, then it's like, okay, you're making it very well known. And Dan Quinn and David Shaw and Jim Caldwell, they're all good football coaches. They're all going to bring stability here. They're all going to bring certain things on each side of the ball. And so they are good football coaches, but the Broncos set the expectations of great, elite. And now we look around, and I know Broncos fans look around and say, whoa, wait. Broncos are competing with the Cardinals, who won't have Kyler Murray for some of this season, if not all of this season. The Panthers, the Colts, the Texans. This is the easiest job to get whoever you want. So the Broncos didn't lose Jim Harbaugh to one of those, but if they lose Sean Payton to one of those teams, and then on top of that, Jim Harbaugh decided to go back to a college job, I think it's gonna be a tough look.
But I don't think they mind that tough look. I think it's the same thing as saying, you know what, I think that we should win we should go to the playoffs this season. And then you go out there and win 5 games. You missed the PR thing. You should have said, no, we just want to do our best because it looks better. But I don't think that's how they see it. I think they want fans to be upset if you don't do the very best you can do. I think they want to set that bar high. I think you want people nationally saying, they said that they could do this. They said it's the Broncos, and then they didn't do it. And I think that level of competition, you think of Jerry Jones. If Jerry Jones goes out there and they lose last night, a lot of people could say like, decent season, 12 wins. You lost in the playoffs, but still like a lot of winning games. Jerry Jones would go out there and he would say, that's not good enough. We're here to win Super Bowls. We suck, and that's just the way it goes. And I think that admitting your failures when you don't land Sean Payton or Jim Harbaugh, I think that could be a good thing. I think that makes sense.
But a key thing here, especially when you talk about Jerry Jones and you talk about other teams, this is this ownership's first time to do something. This is their first time to show who they are. They weren't responsible for Nathaniel Hackett. They weren't responsible for Russell Wilson. This is the first time that they're responsible for this. And look, when they got hired and when they bought the team, it was like, man, they've got the money to do whatever they want. If they come out when literally there's no salary cap here, they don't have to worry about anything. It's just all about getting who they want, and they fall short. It's going to be a bad look. It's going to be a tough look, and it's going to be a look that they don't overcome in 2 months, in a year. And it could get better by if Dan Quinn comes in and is stable, but it could also just look like, man, Sean Payton went to the Texans because you couldn't lure him here, and now he's got Bryce Young playing as a playoff quarterback.
But it should be a bad look. Like, it should be a bad look if you don't get one of the big two. And I think the other option was to say nothing. And then when you get a coach, just be like, oh, whatever. At least at this point, we know they're trying. You know, if you go down the other route, then we say like, oh, are they cheap?
No, we would have known that they're trying this whole
People
time.
are still saying, I don't think they're going to spend the money.
What I think they could have done is come out and say, we want to get the best coach for the Denver Broncos at this moment.
Yeah.
And that just allows you to hire whoever you want and say, this was our guy. We'll know for a fact that they didn't get their guy if they end up hiring Dan Quinn. And that's just, it puts not only the Broncos ownership, it puts Dan Quinn in a tough position where he doesn't even get that like honeymoon period where everyone's like, this guy's amazing. Now I'm sure he'll go win the first press conference and flip 70% of people like most first press conferences do.
Of course.
But it just, it's a PR misstep in my opinion, in their part, unless they get him, you know, like for me, Sean Payton was my number one the whole time. So
no, he wasn't.
Not the whole time.
Yeah.
But has been my number one for a couple weeks now. And for that, so like if they get him, I'm going to be ecstatic. But if they don't, I think it was a bad move on their part because it just has everyone feeling down when one of the big reasons you fired Nathaniel Hackett is because like you needed the fan base back on your side. And then here's the other thing is there will be a narrative out there, and it could be true, that the Broncos ownership thought they could just come in and throw money at any problem and fix it. And they're learning that it's not that simple.
Right. Yeah. And really quick, let us know what you think in the comment section. Sometimes we see too eye to eye on things. I like that we're disagreeing. Let us know in the comment section what you're thinking. And also hit us with a thumbs up if you're watching on YouTube. We really appreciate that. Subscribe, turn on alerts. And if you're listening on iTunes or the podcast side, hit us with a 5-star review. We would really appreciate it.
So real quick. Yeah. You should feel down if they don't get one of the big two, though. And one's out the door. Like, you should be upset that they don't.
But see, you could have felt that way without setting these expectations, though.
I like that they see that is the expectation.
All right. What happened with Jim Harbaugh?
He played them. He played them like a fiddle. Absolutely, I think so. And
Why would he do that to his friends?
Well,
I mean, they might have helped.
Are your brother's friends your friends necessarily?
I don't have a brother.
Your sister's friends.
Yeah, I'd like to think we get along just great.
All of them, though? Like, maybe not. It doesn't mean that you hate her friends or anything. That doesn't necessarily mean it. So, I don't know. I don't know if Jim is friendly with all of these people. Or like, great friends.
I just mean, like, the relationship with Condoleezza and... You know, there was another person on there that he was said to have a relationship with.
Here's why, Ryan. Millions of dollars. That's what Jim Harbaugh just did by doing this. He just got millions of dollars to stay at least now is his dream job, seemingly like a great job.
I love Mike Kliss's report yesterday that said, like, the Broncos actually don't feel like they were played because he's going back to Michigan without a new contract, but it may come later. It's like, come on, bro.
Yeah, it's going to come, and also we know who, and Mike's great at what he does, but we know who he's very connected with, and those people don't want it to seem like the Broncos were played. But
that's the number one reason why I think the Broncos got played.
Why they were, yes,
report.
yes. Sometimes it's too obvious, right?
Yeah.
If they're really friends, though, they could help him. Like, imagine, Ryan, you have a friend who like works at the Denver Post or something, and it's like, yeah, I'm trying to get a new deal. You mind if we talk for like a couple hours so I can go tell him we talked?
Here's why.
Can you bring some paparazzi with you as well?
Yeah, exactly.
Here's why that did not happen, though, is because Mike as well could have easily, in his reporting, could have said, Jim Harbaugh, was a good candidate, but not necessarily the guy. Mike went the opposite. He said he was one of their, I don't know if he said top 2 guys or top guys. So he even admitted that it was a blow for the Broncos not being able to get him. And here's why he was played. Here's why he played the Broncos. Last Monday, we all said that it wasn't a big deal, that was a Zoom interview. He wanted it to be a Zoom interview. So it got the attention out there that he was doing an interview, but he didn't really have to waste his time getting on a jet or meeting with the team for 5 hours at a restaurant.
Can you imagine you ask a girl on a date and she's like, yeah, you just Zoom 6 o'clock? You're like, oh, I was thinking we'd go out to like a nice restaurant. She's like, let's just start on Zoom and see where things go.
And then in the middle of the Zoom, she takes out Snapchat and is like, hey, smile for me. And you're like, wait, what is this? And she's just sending it to her friends to show, that she's wanted out there.
Yes, exactly.
But
to her ex.
Yeah, exactly. And then so what happens a day or two after that he has that virtual interview with the Broncos? Oh, the president of Michigan steps in over the AD. We find out that there's some drama going on with the AD and Jim Harbaugh. The AD's not giving Jim what he wants. So the president steps in, completely trumps the AD. And then who
Bad
does
look
Jim...
for the AD.
Oh, terrible look.
Yeah.
Also, are we surprised, though? Jim Harbaugh not really... having some conflicts with people above him? No, we aren't. That's what happened in San Francisco and why he eventually left San Francisco. So Michigan has their own problems with the AD, and it seems like the president is definitely siding with Jim Harbaugh. So I think that interview got Jim exactly what he wanted. It got him that power. It got him that respect from the president stepping over the AD, and now I think he's going to absolutely have a bigger contract.
Probably. I'm not willing to say I guess this is kind of like usual. I'm not willing to say he played them just because like that's like a negative thing to say and I just don't know enough. Like I'm not willing to say that that's what happened. Like there's a real chance that what happened was they said, "Hey, we want to interview for this job," and he said, "I'm pretty happy here at Michigan. I think I want to stay at Michigan. But yeah, let's talk for a couple hours. I'll hear you guys out." And that came down to this. So I'm not willing to go so far as to say
reports of like he's looking for looking for an NFL job, and if he gets an offer, he's making the jump.
Right.
But again, like those are just reports.
Why wouldn't he have dropped out of the race last Tuesday then? If it was really he's so happy at Michigan, but let me hear you out.
Yeah, I mean that's possible, or maybe that's when they start talking with Michigan. So maybe that's when he said like, I'm not so sure. I've got to hear what Michigan has to say now. Like, I don't know. I'm not willing to say with such
like
little
playing.
information.
I think
there's a good chance. There's a good chance that they played him, but I'm not putting that on him.
So I'm actually of a different mind entirely. Other than the Clist report is in my head, just because I'm like, there's only two ways someone got played. They say they got played, and they say they didn't get played.
Yep.
And so that's sitting there in my head. But I also think there's a chance that the Broncos weren't ready to say, Harbaugh's the guy, draft up the contract, throw $25 million a year at him, and let's get this thing done. And Harbaugh knew that he couldn't sit around and wait and let this thing play out for weeks on end.
Yep.
And so, for him, if he was going to go back to Michigan, if there was any thought for him, he couldn't sit here. I know most of the work for signing day is done for early signing day this time of year, but like signing day is coming up in 2 weeks. And I think he was going to have some problems if he's here, he's out, he's 1 foot in, he's 1 foot out. And so my thought of the potential scenario was he said, all right, am I the guy? Where are we at here? And they, the Broncos said, hey, well, you're one of our guys, but we still have to do this interview with Sean Payton, which we can't even do till tomorrow, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And all the while, Michigan's banging on the door saying, all right, we'll up you to $12 million. Or whatever it is, and he just said, all right, fine. If I don't want this to look like I am the fool here, because if it goes all the way down to the end and the Broncos are between Sean Payton and Jim Harbaugh and they choose Sean Payton, that's a bad look for Jim Harbaugh, right? And then he's been halfway out the door for 2 weeks. Now he's coming back, crying at the door, let me back in. He said, I want to make sure I control the narrative. So unless I'm the guy, unless you're giving me a contract now, I got to get out of here.
But that's exactly what happened last year. He thought he was going to get the job with the Vikings, and they decided to go a different direction than him. It was a bad look for him. How much did that impact him in Michigan? It didn't impact him at all. He still had a good recruiting class.
He
still went to the Final Four, went to the college football playoffs. So and also Jim is just, and I totally see what you're saying, Ryan, but the biggest pushback I have for your point is Jim knew what this process was going to be like. He knew he wasn't going to win the Broncos over and get the job based off a 2-hour Zoom interview. He knew that he was going to have to wait until they interviewed Sean Payton today. He knew this was going to be a multi-week process when he started. So I don't think that Jim Harbaugh just didn't think about this all the way through. He's a really smart guy.
Do you think if the Broncos would have, when he called the Broncos yesterday and said, hey, I'm going back to Michigan, if they would have said $25 million, would it have stopped him?
No, I also don't think Greg Penner was going to do that.
I don't either.
Getting the rejection call before he's in even talked to half of the other candidates, I don't think he would have done that.
25, you'd have to take it though.
But that's kind of my point. Is I think if he was the Broncos guy, and they were like, "Hey, look, we have to go through the interview process because that's kind of the thing you got to do around here. But you're the guy, so just be patient. We're gonna give you a big old contract." I think they probably could have had him.
At 25 million, like you have to. Like again, like he could coach in Denver for 2 years, which is basically guaranteed. Or he could spend 7 years at Michigan and not make quite so much money.
I don't think you have to though, because we mentioned this yesterday. $12.5 million. The difference with 25 million is a ton in terms of like what it means for like 7 generations down.
Yes.
But for what it means to you is nothing. And this isn't a guy that hasn't made tens of millions of dollars before. So if he truly is happy, however, if I'm in another NFL team in the future, I'm saying, Jim, I really want you, but I can't take you seriously now because I think he played the Broncos this year. There were all the reports that he wanted to come back in the NFL. I would not consider Jim Harbaugh in the future if I'm an NFL team.
I also think if Jim Harbaugh was the Broncos coach, he'd be making $15 million or less. That's where I fit in. Because even $15 million, he's second highest paid head coach in the NFL.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that's why 25, though, I think
That's
you
why I
just have to.
But that's kind of what I mean, though, is like if he was the Broncos guy from the jump, I think they could have had him and they could have just used money to eventually get to a point where he couldn't say no. I just think that they weren't like he was one of their guys and he didn't want to wait around to find out if he was going to be the guy.
Interesting. Yeah, I just think he played him.
It's possible.
The easiest way to connect the dots is that he played him.
Yeah.
So what do you guys think? Did he play him? Obviously, I think yes.
I mean, I'm not willing to say that. Like, just because I don't know. It feels, I think most likely yes.
I don't, and I want to say this, I don't think he played them in like such an embarrassing look for the Broncos because it was only 1 2-hour Zoom interview. And it's not like the Broncos only had 2 candidates when they went out and he was one of them. So it's not like I'm not saying it's like, oh my gosh, what a terrible look for the Broncos. It's just that he simply just did that. And it kind of sucks, but at least you still have one other top tier guy. Ryan?
With Mike Kliss as the tiebreaker, they play.
And if you want to watch another team play another team, check out our friends over at Game Time, where you can watch teams play each other. And if you want to watch teams dominate another team, check out the Denver Nuggets, because over at Game Time, you can get in to see the Nuggets. Guys, I was looking at Game Time. Tickets for tonight's game for the Nuggets, I think you can get first section or bottom section for like $40.
Wow.
And that is incredible to see the Nuggets. So check them out. You can also see the Avs. You can see the Broncos coming up. But if you want to get to a Nuggets or Avs game, you got to check out Game Time. And click on the link in our description. It's on the podcast side. It's also in the description in YouTube. Click on that. It'll take you to all the games you want.
Jokic now, what I would describe as a heavy favorite.
What is
to
it?
win MVP. He's plus 170. Closest is plus 250.
My goodness.
Maybe
And
plus
just the
230.
momentum that he's got, too.
Yeah, just soaring up the ranks.
What, it's been a month since he's gone from like plus 1,500 to this?
Yeah, I would say that's about, yeah.
Wow.
The Basketball Reference MVP tracker has him as a 62% chance to win it. Second best is Luka with 11.
Oh.
I'm actually shocked that Luka isn't. Maybe there's something I'm missing on Luka.
The team's just not good.
Right, that's got
Like, he's just your standard volume scorer. He defends worse than Jokic.
I think
So he's the Russell Westbrook. And I love
We'll
Russell
see where he
Westbrook.
is in a few years.
I think this might, if it's right, it might go down as my best prediction ever.
Which one?
I said the Nuggets are going to get the 1 seed. Jokic is going to average a triple-double, and he's going to win MVP.
Wow, that's pretty good.
Did you parlay those at DraftKings?
I didn't parlay them, but I did bet on all of them individually.
Okay,
Good.
I like
Yep.
it.
I don't
So-
think you can parlay him.
You can't. You're
So
right.
there you go.
Okay.
If when that happens, you can take some of that money over to Shady Rays, buy yourself some new shades. Shady Rays, beyond being a really cool name for a company, they also make some really cool sunglasses. They've got all sorts of different kinds. Basically, all the different kinds of sunglasses, right? They got like the aviators. They've got like the square ones, the round ones,
Yeah, they've
tortoiseshell,
got the frameless ones.
frameless glasses.
Coach Prime's been rocking the frameless a little
Coach
okay.
Prime on the Manning cast last
bit.
night.
Oh yeah. I was kind of disappointed. We did get a Let's Go Buffs out of Peyton Manning.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is, that.
It was
That lasts.
Yeah,
That's,
yeah,
you know,
I'm
that stays
sure.
forever. He didn't ask one question to Coach Prime about CU or Colorado. That was kind of disappointing.
It was a Scobuffs too. It was like he knows. Like he's tuned in
Well,
at
he
least
said
a little.
let's go.
Did he?
Buffs.
I could swear it's a Scobuff. Maybe they cut it out. I saw like this quick one where it's like Scobuffs.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe that was intentional. But yeah, Shady Rays. I mean, I bet Dion wears them. I bet Peyton wears them. I know I wear them because they are the best for a bunch of different reasons, including that if you lose them or break them, they will replace them. It's an awesome company. They are very affordable glasses. I think they're all polarized, right? Are they all polarized? Yeah, they're all polarized. Great product.
Not to be confused with polarizing.
No. No.
They're not polarizing because people love them.
Yeah.
So true.
Everyone does.
Opposite. What's the opposite polarizing?
United.
Because the poles are on the outside of the globe. So what would be in the middle?
Denver. Denverizing.
They're Denverizing. Okay, we'll work on that.
My favorite are the blue light glasses.
Oh,
They also have blue light
Yep,
glasses, which
I
Allie
need
likes.
some today.
They're awesome.
But yeah, use the code DMVR or visit them in store at the Park Meadows Mall for 50% off 2 pairs of polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself. The shades are rated 5 stars by over 200,000 people.
All right, guys. There is a candidate who is said to be interviewing with the Denver Broncos today that we have not talked about yet on this show, and his name is Raheem Morris. So we've got 3 minutes on the clock. Zach, I'm going to have you start us off.
All right, Raheem Morris, 46 years old, still a relatively young coach, but he has so much experience in the NFL. He came into the NFL in 2002 with the Tampa Bay Bucks as a defensive quality control coach. Then he became their head coach in 2009, was their head coach for 3 years. A decade ago, and he's only 46 years old right now. He stayed in the NFL after being fired by the Tampa Bay Bucks, has had a lot of positions, but one of the things that's interesting about Raheem Morris is, yes, he was a defensive coordinator. He is a defensive coordinator now with the Los Angeles Rams, but he has had positions on the offensive side as well. So when we're talking about CEO type of people that understand the entire game, people that aren't just going to be keyed in on one certain group, that is Raheem Morris. He was a wide receivers coach, defensive coordinator, head coach at only 45 years old. So he brings tons of experience with only being 46.
There we go. And on top of that, he has experience with the Shanahans, which is a good thing, obviously, but it's even better here in Denver for a bunch of different reasons. Mike Shanahan took him under his wing after he was the head coach there. He went to Washington. And again, this isn't like, oh, he's part of the coaching tree. It was Mike Shanahan said, I saw what you did as a head coach, and now I want to help you out a little bit, teach you a couple things so that next time it'll go even better. From there, he follows Kyle Shanahan and joins the Falcons. And when you look at how this team is built right now, you might not love that it's a West Coast offense, but you know the fact that they use that West Coast terminology, Raheem Morris has a background in that terminology. If he wants to bring in a coordinator who he really works well with, who he can have at least a little bit of a fingerprint on the offense, it would make sense to bring in that West Coast type of guy who will use a very similar terminology to what the Broncos use right now, which could make the transition a lot easier.
Yeah, this is the definition of CEO type, but also kind of the definition of the John Fox type of hire. And I think that's being taken in a negative way because obviously the way that things ended with John Fox weren't pretty. But to be honest, I think it could end up being a really positive thing for the Denver Broncos to find their John Fox. Remember, John Fox was brought in a terrible time for the Denver Broncos. After the Josh McDaniels mess, he solidified everything. He got the team moving. He got them respectable. He got them to a Super Bowl. And so that was a really great rebuild job done by John Fox. And, you know, Peyton Manning was there too. I'm saying that tongue in cheek. But, you know, that is a good thing for me. When you talk to people around the league about Raheem Morris, you hear the same thing over and over again. I think this is a guy who, if he gets another chance at being a head coach, would do a great job. And there's a lot of people out there who get that put on them. But when you hear people talk about Raheem Morris, they really, really drive that in.
And there's our 3 minutes. But just to add on to that, I mean, respected coach is kind of exactly what you're talking about, Ryan. And a lot of these guys that we talk about, respected coaches, are in their 60s or, late 50s, mid 60s. No, 46 years old to be doing this. He's been respected since he came into the league because of just how young he was when he got into the league. His players love him, coaches love him. And Henry, you mentioned he was with Kyle Shanahan. He's coached under Mike Shanahan. Also been with Sean McVay. I mean, he's touching nearly every good tree that you can touch throughout his career.
And then the downside, though, I mean, the years in Tampa weren't great. There was the one winning season, but a 21-38 record.
Yep.
You don't love to see that. Tampa can be a tough place to win, so you can kind of let that slide. You're bringing him in to be a CEO type. He also has been running the Rams defense the last couple of years. It was the number one defense in 2020. He took over in 2021. These last 2 seasons, it's been a pretty average defense with pretty similar personnel. This year, they lose Von Miller. So there's still a lot to like, but there's also a reason why he hasn't gotten another head coach job.
It's a very good point. And by the way, Henry, got to give you credit. You won last night.
Oh, yes,
I thought
I did.
the Bucks were going to win. He thought the Cowboys were going to win.
Can I get some credit while we're at it too?
6-0. Congratulations.
Wow.
Congratulations.
6-0, a
Wow.
perfect weekend in the playoffs.
Perfect 6-0 for you and picking games. Henry was 5-1. I was 4-2. So if you're rolling with us on the picks, you're looking pretty good. You're looking even better if you're rolling with Ryan. So congratulations. You're still losing in every other pick'em thing we do. So I hope you can at least have this one.
I mean, playoffs is where it counts, right? No one's remembered for what they do in the regular season.
But Henry, so congratulations. You were
thank you.
right.
Yeah, I know.
Got to give you your props. But one thing that people are coming out of last night's game with, and this can tie in with Raheem Morris, is people are like, how can you not love Dan Quinn for what he did last night? How good of a performance was that to bring into the Broncos interview? No.
Oh.
Do not base hiring a head coach off of like one great game. And obviously Dan Quinn's done a lot of good things with their defense. I'm not just putting Dan Quinn down, but if you look at just one game and say, wow, what he did against old Tom Brady was great when Tom Brady couldn't hit a receiver 10 yards within him. But then also I want to expand that to Raheem Morris and Dan Quinn. Don't just hire a guy, especially with what the Broncos are looking for, based off one good season or 2 good seasons on one side of the ball, because Raheem Morris, a great season last year, he had so much talent. Loses some of that talent this year, doesn't have a good season. Don't base it off of, wow, he had a great season or he had a bad season, because if Dan Quinn comes here, he very well may not be calling the defensive plays. People have asked, is he going to change it to a 4-3? He may not, but I think who they bring in is not going to be a Nathaniel Hackett where they're so hands-on with one side of the ball, or a Vic Fangio where they're so hands-on with the other side of the ball. It's going to be someone more so overseeing things. So Dan Quinn doing great in one game, or Raheem Morris doing, underwhelming this season, to me is certainly not a big deal.
It's the same thing as us saying, pushing back on people being like, Harbaugh, the guy who just lost to TCU.
Right.
That has nothing to do with his candidacy
Right.
For being the head coach. A couple things. One, if Dan Quinn becomes the head coach, he better stay a backwards hat guy.
Not lose the swag.
Yeah, I just want to see people be who they are. You know,
Yep.
You don't need to turn your hat around just because you got a better job.
So then you actually don't like Pete Carroll doing the backwards hat last week.
That was weird. It was just kind of weird.
Because what you're saying is it's not him.
It's not him. Number 2, I just have to talk about Tom Brady for a second. Watching that last night was so sad.
Not the route I thought you were going to take.
It was like, I've had a lot of dogs in my life, and just over time, eventually you wake up one day and your dog can't make it up the stairs, or for some reason they're looking off into space with a 10,000 yard stare. And you're
Damn, this is so
you're
sad.
are you there? And you just know that, it's time.
Father time.
Gotta get rid of that dog.
Yes, and that's what it was like watching Tom Brady last night.
Guy's awful.
I felt like he couldn't make it up the stairs anymore.
He's
Oh
terrible.
my gosh, guys. No. Yesterday was really bad. He's going to end up with the Raiders, and you guys are going to just think about this game and be like, yeah, Tom Brady's in the division. He's going to suck. And then he's going to still be really good.
There's no
He's
way.
terrible.
He's got to stop.
He's terrible.
Last night, he was terrible. I agree.
He's been terrible all year.
His
Then
stats
what
wouldn't
has
say it,
Russell Wilson been? if he
Also
hasn't been
terrible. Also terrible.
Worse than terrible.
No, they could have a great rivalry in the AFC West. So you can go 6
There's
and 11.
no.
Do you
Tom's
guys-
gonna go to a new team.
Yeah, with a good buddy in Josh.
Oh.
That's why he's dumping Derek Carr. He thinks he's a lock to get Tom Brady. It's a gamble.
Yeah, 'cause
that
nobody wants
if-
him.
I don't know. San Francisco is going to be interesting what they do at quarterback. They may even be in on him as well. But yeah, I think Tom Brady's going to be a Las Vegas Raider. If last night was an indication of who he is right now, that's going to be a good thing for the Broncos. I just don't think it's an indication of who he is.
Man, I don't know. I don't know. Like, I'm not gonna sit here and say he'll never have another good game again. You know.
yeah.
I think he's capable of that. It was hard to watch.
Terrible.
It was so bad.
Which, honestly, I want to take more credit for that than saying the Cowboys would win. Because my biggest take was that game's going to be terrible to watch.
Yep.
And I
Yep,
called
yep,
that.
yep.
I definitely called that one. That is the worst game to watch all weekend.
The Bucks, man, they were just one of the worst teams to watch all season.
Oh, they're awful.
Yeah. And also, they were an 8-9 team going into the playoffs. So let's not give Dan Quinn too much credit yet.
Yeah, no.
It's a body of work thing for Dan Quinn.
Of course,
in
of
terms
course,
his
of course.
defensive prowess there in Dallas, but you're not hiring him for that.
Right.
Like you
Yeah.
mentioned.
Right.
You're hiring him because of his CEO characteristics and leadership and what his players think of him. That being said, the Broncos have talked a lot about, or I shouldn't say the Broncos. The reports out there have suggested the Broncos want to go away from the players coach road. Which is funny because it's just you're always hiring the opposite of what you just fired.
Yes.
So for the Broncos, we just alternate every other year.
It's so true.
But you know,
every other year, what a dig.
it's true. It's like, okay, Vance Joseph, he was kind of too soft on the players.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get Vic. You know, come in and lower the hammer. And it's like Vic was so mean, he wouldn't even
Yeah.
let them listen to music.
Yeah.
Let's get Hackett. Oh, he's out there
So
dancing.
refreshing.
We need someone who can lower the boom on these guys. They're just running around too freely out there. It's like, my God. Just hire a good coach. I don't care what they do.
Yes.
And the big thing to me, just don't hire a first-time coach. I'm so over that. Like, the more I think of it, the more I think the Broncos should just never be hiring first-time head coaches.
Okay, see
Like,
you,
there's
Sean
so
McVay.
many-
Bye, Kevin O'Connell.
Yeah.
Brian Daboll, it was nice to know you.
but what
Mike
happens?
McDaniel, sorry.
But what happens? How often does a coach stay with a team for more than 10 years?
You want to know what's crazy?
Like,
Yeah.
one in every 25, 30.
Why 10? Like, why? are you
Just
saying
like
that?
as a time, like, they all hit the market. Like, eventually, like, if you just go through the guys who have previous coaching experience, the floor is generally pretty high. You know that the guy is at least capable of doing the job. The Broncos have hit a couple of these guys who just aren't even capable. Like, you should be able to hit that baseline
Right.
and identify who is good. Like, I think for a good organization, you should be able to go after only second-time head coaches, people with experience and have success.
you
Then
wanna know
you're
what's
missing
crazy?
out on all the guys I mentioned.
Yeah, for now. They'll
I'm
hit the market.
99% sure this is true, so you can fact check me on this one. But I'm pretty sure no coach has ever won a Super Bowl with two teams
As the head coach?
as the head coach.
Ooh.
So it's not
Really?
like Sean Payton, you know, we put a feather in his cap because he's won one before. But I'm pretty sure it has never once happened that a coach won one with one team, got fired, won one with another team.
That is wild.
Yep, that has never happened.
And it's what's
There are
crazy. It's only
five.
ever happened with two quarterbacks.
Yep, 5 have
and
appeared
Tom.
in a Super Bowl with two teams.
So then, Henry, I definitely disagree with you even more.
But
Yeah.
you just got to hire someone who hasn't been to a Super Bowl. yet.
Exactly.
Exactly.
A second-time head coach who hasn't been to a
so
Super Bowl.
Jim Harbaugh was definitely the guy.
Yeah.
No.
Wow.
Yeah, we'll see if Doug Peterson can shake the trend. How about that game, boys?
Oh my goodness.
That was a good game.
It actually wasn't a good game. It was only like a good game until the final 2 minutes. And then once the final 2 minutes came around, there was just that one play that Jacksonville had. Incredible call, by the
What a-
way.
what a
I mean,
call.
Doug Peterson just showing what he's got
Yep.
there with that one. And then, like, that was, for me, like, the only really exciting part of the game. And then it was like, okay, it's over now. Like, it was like a terrible game at first. Then it was like, oh, they're making a comeback. Okay, I smashed them, you know, plus 20 and a half. And I'm like, okay, I feel good. And then it was like, oh, wow. It went from like not a game to like, oh, wow, they're going to win.
Right. Like the momentum
It was just
meter was
crazy.
just too far.
Yeah,
There
yeah.
was no coming back from it. Oh, man. I realized as that kick was going through the uprights,
Barely.
I realized that the Los Angeles Chargers have brought me more joy in the last 6 years than the Denver Broncos.
Wow, it is true.
And now Brandon Staley, the Chargers are once again helping the Broncos. They're keeping Brandon Staley, just making a lot of changes on the offensive staff.
That's good transition because I was saddened by how down bad Broncos fans were that so many people in my mentions couldn't even enjoy the Chargers charging it in the greatest fashion ever because they're like, well, there goes Sean Payton. I was like, okay, can I please just enjoy this for a few seconds before you try and kill my vibe?
Right. Yeah. No, it's so true. And speaking of field goals barely going in, do the Cowboys get a new kicker in the next 4 or 5 days?
That guy stinks. That guy's terrible. I know everybody wants to point to the numbers from all season and be like, no, he's actually good. No, he's not. We saw it. He sucks.
Clearly, it's the yips and it's
Yes.
in his head. And
They
those don't go away.
So-
Yeah,
I
they
was
aren't
gonna say-
changing kickers. Like, they've already said they aren't. But yes, they should.
Did they say it after the game last night?
Jerry Jones did. Yeah.
Well, if Jerry says it, you know
Yeah,
it's
there you
true.
go.
Yeah.
It was 2 weeks before my junior year regionals of golf.
Okay.
Normal day, nothing changed.
Damn, I hate where this is
Everything was
going.
going great. Showed up to golf practice. First shot on the range, off to the right. That's weird.
Those are sound your shots, man?
I couldn't have been hitting balls fat. I was like, what the just one after another off the hosel. I won't even say the word just in case anyone has a tea time today. Unbelievable. I sat there on that range thinking I might never hit a good golf shot again in my life. I was trying everything. I had to call my coach over. He's like, try this. Nope. And thankfully it was 2 weeks before regionals because it took me about 10 days to get over it. So if what he's going through is anything like what I was going through, they can't play him next week.
Yeah, no.
But
he missed one the week before, too.
Yep.
The last one the week before.
So he's missed 5 in a row?
Straight extra points.
Which means that he probably went into that game thinking like, oh, don't do it like last time. And then whoop, there it goes. And then just bang, bang, bang. He just keeps missing. Like there's no reason to keep him around.
To me, when McCarthy had the opportunity for a 35-yard field goal and decided to go for it in garbage time on 4th and 2 instead, that's when I was like, oh no, now the coach has given it. And then he's going to see on social media Dak throwing his helmet when they're up like 24-0 and Dak is still just infuriated by him missing it.
That was crazy. Peyton's reactions. Did you guys watch the Manning cast?
Yeah.
Peyton's reaction. It's my favorite part about the Manning cast because Peyton reacts to every play as if it's his own team and he's the quarterback of them.
Yeah.
You know, and like you can just tell that's exactly how he would react if he was on the sidelines. He's so mad that, you know, you lead him down, you think you got 7, and you're the quarterback on the sideline. You look up, you only got 6. 4 times in a row.
Dak, you can't do that though. You can't do that.
I don't know.
Like if that would have lost
I'm not
them the
gonna blame
game
him.
or something, then of course he can do that. It doesn't matter. But like now the kicker knows that the quarterback is out on him. The coach is the only one that's in on him is Jerry Jones.
But isn't it better to just have everything out there on the table than to be like, no, buddy, you're doing just fine. Like you're
I'm
the
not
leader
saying
of the
he needs
team.
to
Be
go
frustrated.
Give him a therapy
I'm not.
session.
Let me give you something way worse than what Dak did. The Buffs had this kicker. I won't actually name him because I think he watches these shows. And he's a good guy.
So he knows who
I
he
don't want
is,
to throw him
though.
under the bus, but he knows the story. He was in a real slump. Brutal slump. He actually made a game-winning kick against West Virginia, was awarded a scholarship, and then went into a slump almost immediately there afterwards. And at one point, they lined up for a field goal, and the head coach, Dan Hawkins, turned around. Turned his back.
Oh, no.
As if to say, I can't even watch.
Oh, Dan, you can't do that,
You
man.
can't do that as a head
do that.
It's like you're really helping the kid who's
Right.
clearly struggling. You're showing a lot of confidence in him.
Did he miss?
I think he did, yeah.
Yeah.
But nice guy. So yeah,
Is that Mason Crosby?
it was not Mason
No,
Crosby.
not Mason Crosby.
Shocker.
Greatest
No.
kicker of all time. But yeah, I mean, I'm kind of with you, Zach. You have to show confidence in those guys. It's a very heady position,
Yeah.
more than really any other in football, at least, where it's just like basically mental is the only reason why you miss more than a 2 in a row.
Yeah, like we know he still has the leg for a 50-yarder. There's no question about that.
Who's available?
I don't even know how to check.
Just Google kicker free agents.
Well, but it's all just like people whose contract like expired right now.
Available kicker free agents.
I've tried everything. I don't know how to find a list of people who are currently free agents.
The thing is, I just think
I'll
you
be a
would get a
terrible
bunch
GM.
of guys who suck as well. Although I
I
guess
mean, they
the
can't be
Chargers
worse.
just like brought in a random guy and he ended up being really good.
Yeah, all I know, if your options are Brett Maher or a guy who sucks, you cut Brett Maher and you just don't kick the ball. Like you cannot justify sending him out there to kick balls in the divisional round of the playoffs.
Here's where I can get behind you is you decide after every touchdown you're going to go for 2.
Yep.
But if at the end of a half or at the end of a game, if you need a 48-yarder as opposed to like a 31-yard almost Hail Mary type of play, you got to have the kicker for that.
Yeah. And I guess in that situation, if you say like, this guy has a 20% chance of making this. He's sewing his head right now. We've got 5% chance of hitting a Hail Mary here.
Right.
Then F it. Yeah, just send him out there. Do what you got to do.
And then the whole team turns their back
I
on the
just-
sideline.
the
Here's what
punter
I
might
worry
be a better
about.
option at this point.
If he goes out there and you drive down, you go opening drive score next week, and he misses the extra point,
Yep.
you can't put him back on the field the rest of the game.
No.
If you brought in a street free agent and he misses the first extra point, you're still thinking like, okay, he's gonna make the next one.
Yeah, probably. Unless that last guy sucked so bad that this guy can't stop thinking about it. Because I know everybody watching that game, whoever the kicker is, the first kick you're going to be thinking, wonder what's going to happen here. Because they've really been bad. Again, you know that new kicker's thinking the same thing too. I don't know. They might have just poisoned the whole special team situation for their entire playoff run.
They're in such a tough spot,
They
especially
suck.
now that this next coming game is probably going to be a lot more
They're
competitive.
not scoring touchdowns against that defense.
Oh, wow.
Niners.
Yeah.
Cowboys. I'm loving these guys. I can't wait to talk about them later in the
A lot
league.
of field goals on the way.
And
This
by
was
the
fun.
way,
we just went around the league without
it's
even.
true. It's and it's a Tuesday. Tuesday around the league. There we
Hashtag
go.
this league.
And if you want to bet on the games this weekend, there's some juicy lines out there. I like the favorites on Saturday, the dogs on Sunday, just to give a little hint there. If you want to bet on them, go to DraftKings Sportsbook, and you can have $200 in free bets for playoffs. They upped it from $150 to $200 in free bets by placing a $5 bet on any NFL game. You get $200 free in your account right then. So you want to have $200 free to bet on these 4 playoff games this weekend? Go to DraftKings Sportsbook. Use the code DNVR when you sign up in order to get this. And for every playoff game or for every playoff day, they're giving a $10 free bet back. If your bet misses, they'll give you $10 in a free bet to help make that back. So check them out. They have so many deals at DraftKings Sportsbook. We all use it and love it, and it's the official betting partner of All City, not just DNVR, All City. So check them out at DraftKings Sportsbook. Make sure to see our show notes for details, and if you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-522-4700.
And if you're listening to this podcast, you've probably heard of Backus and Shanker because they are huge in the sports world. They have ads like on all of the channels around here, all of them. And I think all the radio stations too. It seems like everywhere you look, it's Backus and Shanker.
I don't even know about sports, just everywhere.
They are
So,
everywhere
Yeah.
because they are very good attorneys, and that's why they've been around in Colorado for more than 25 years. Like I said, huge sports fans. That's why they have started partnering with us. Let's
go.
And what they specialize in is injury cases. So if you get hurt, you should call Backus and Shanker. Like I said, they've been around for 25 years. They won't charge you an upfront fee to speak with them. There's no fee while they work on your case. You don't actually pay them unless they win money for you, which is, in my opinion, the way that things probably should work, right? But I guess we don't need to go down that road today. We'll save that for later. They have won over $1 billion for their clients over the last 25 years plus, really. They've got more locations. They serve all of Colorado. They've got neighborhood offices in Denver, Aurora, Inglewood, Fort Collins. Wherever you are, there's probably an office near you. And they have the strength and power to win your case. They have more than 30 lawyers on their staff. Backus and Shanker, they help with all kinds of injury cases where you weren't at fault. So car accidents, motorcycle accidents, rideshare accidents. If you're a pedestrian who... you could imagine anything involving trucks. They can help if you're injured
If you got
at
hit
work.
by a wayward Cowboys extra point attempt.
Oh, my God.
Wow, I'm no expert, but I think they would take that.
I think
case.
that's what Shanker is an
Is this Brett Maher? Is this Brett Maher who's now Shanker?
So if you turn your Backus to the kicker and he shanks it into you.
But yeah, heard at work, whatever. Call them at 222-2222. You can remember that one. 222-2222. And figure out if you have a case for free. Backus and Schenker, they win. Over $1 billion.
I think a girl gave me that number at the bar.
Wow. Did she personally injure you?
Yeah, actually.
Giving
my
you
mom-
that phone number, I'm sure it did.
What was I gonna say? Oh, I was gonna say it's always like a flex for me when we get a partner like Backus and Schenker, like that you've just been seeing your whole life.
Yeah.
Like fires me up. You know, you're like they're probably on a bus that's gonna drive by in the next 5 minutes.
It's very true.
That one. We've had some other ones. We need to get like the full like Colorado spectrum of just all
Yeah.
of those.
We can't mention them right now
No,
because
no.
no free ads there. Honestly, someone in our company asked for a pronunciation for Bacchus, and I was like, what?
hell is
How do you
wrong
not
with
know
Won't
how
throw
to
him under
pronounce
the
this?
won't throw him under the bus, but not from here.
Yeah. Not from here.
That would make sense then.
Yeah.
All right.
Really quick, guys, before we hop into questions, huge news along the coaching front, obviously, with Jim Harbaugh out. I think we all had Jim in our top 2. We got to pull him out. We got to pull him out and update our coaching
Shoot, I haven't thought
board
about this.
for us and see how it plays out. So here's what we have going on. Yep. Henry and I both had Jim number 1. That's why I said disappointing, devastating, tough day for
Actually,
us.
Henry had Jim number 4.
Yeah, no, 8 actually.
Did
Yeah,
not
that's
have him
true.
number
Good
8.
thing we didn't update this
Wow.
yesterday. Actually, we should have updated yesterday because Henry, you'd be looking good now. And Ryan, you had Jim
I
at
had
number 2.
2.
Yep.
So, how you guys changing it up?
So I will move Ben Johnson up to number 2.
Wow. Okay.
I'm
like
still very intrigued by Ben Johnson. It'll be the latest good hire that the Broncos didn't interview. So
Long
I'm
list of
sticking
that.
to my guns.
Yeah.
Oh, the list of coaches.
Yeah.
Like I saw a Chargers fan
Yeah.
put out all the people that they interviewed but didn't hire and how
Oh.
successful they are. I was almost going to be like, I can one up you here. The Broncos didn't even interview Sean McVay
Yeah.
or Mike McDaniel
Yeah.
or Doug Peterson
Date ball.
or Brian Daboll. I mean, the list is spectacular.
Yeah, it really is. Unfortunately. Hey,
Yes.
at least they interviewed Kyle Shanahan. Do they get props for
They-
that? Or is that even like
It was
worse?
it was like a legacy interview.
You're right, it was. It
They
wasn't
gave
even
him a
like real.
courtesy interview.
Yeah. Wasn't John like, yeah, we were really impressed in the interview. But no.
Yeah,
Like, I was
Vance.
like-
So we had already decided Vance was the coach before.
Actually,
this.
Vance was sitting in on the interview too. He wanted in.
And then my last one, I'm going to put Jim Caldwell.
So you got Ben Johnson, Jim Caldwell. Okay, I like it. And really quick, Tony Briscoe in the comments section, something about Zach's mom. I don't think he's talking about my mom, but I want to talk about my mom. Happy birthday to my mom.
wow.
So I think he's talking about a different Zach's mom in a very different context.
Yes, he
but
is.
a happy birthday to my wonderful mom.
Also, happy birthday to Alex.
Oh, there we go.
Happy
January
birthday.
17th. Good day.
Yes, it is.
Wow.
Shout out Nick.
So I will update my board now, and I just can't. We're at the point where I can't see past the guys who the Broncos are interviewing. So I'm only going to keep this who the Broncos are interviewing. I like that you're keeping to your guys, Ryan. But just realistically, I can't think outside like that. So unfortunately, Jerry Rosberg, you're out.
Oh no.
Jim Harbaugh, you're out. Sean Payton, by default. I mean, that's how I feel about this. By default, my number 1 guy right now. Number 2, I'm going to go David Shaw. Putting him up there at number 2. And then I just can't think of it, again, beyond the Broncos board. I think there's 3 top guys now, and that third guy's Dan Quinn. So he'll be at number 3 for me.
I just can't help but think when I think of David Shaw, like, okay, so he was Stanford's backup plan to Jim Harbaugh, and they got backup plan results.
Not the beginning.
I mean, they got better results than they did with Jim Harbaugh.
Did they?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Was the
Well,
so the
I mean-
Rose Bowl was with Shaw?
Shaw had 2 Rose Bowls.
Okay, all
yeah.
right, all
3
right.
Pac-12
Jim
titles.
also went 12-1 his last year there, though.
That is true.
David Shaw didn't do better than that.
I mean, if you look at the whole body of work, because the first couple of years for Jim
Who
were rough.
recruited the players though?
I
honestly don't know. I'm just asking.
McCaffrey. So Luck would have been
Harbaugh.
McCaffrey, I think, was definitely Shaw.
Okay, all right.
Yep.
Maybe I'm
Bryce
being too rough on-
Love, also Heisman runner-up. He was definitely Shaw.
Man, I mean,
All right, fine.
There's-
I take back what I said.
there really were for me no flaws with Jim Harbaugh. He was my number one. Then there was a gap
Not
between
even like
number
personality
two.
wise.
No, because I think that's what the team needs.
Not like the assholeness, just the corniness.
No, doesn't bother me at all. Because if you win, you can be like that, and no one cares. And that's what Ryan, the last losing season he had outside of the COVID year, which I mean the Buffs had a winning season then, so we got to pull that off the record. I mean, it doesn't really count. Shows how things were skewed.
Wow.
Was 2008. That was Jim Harbaugh's last losing season when there was a full season played.
Crazy.
Insane. So I'm disappointed in where I stand.
So that's what you got. I really should have Dan Quinn on my list because I think it looks like I don't think he's a good candidate when I just went over it. I thought he was last year. I think he still is.
So tell me why Jim Caldwell ahead of him then.
I just like the body of work better.
Fair.
If you got the Lions to the playoffs, I just think that you're some sort of savant.
Yeah, it's true.
And he did do it with Matt Stafford and Calvin Johnson. So, talent played a role there.
Yeah.
But, I mean, they had Barry Sanders.
Yeah.
And, I don't think they ever
Yeah.
made the playoffs with him. So,
When other coaches had Calvin Johnson and Matthew Stafford and didn't do that.
So, to me, it's just like, I don't know. I think of maybe anyone who deserves another chance at being a head coach, it would be Jim Caldwell.
It's fair. Very fair. Henry?
Yeah.
What are we looking like here?
I've got Sean Payton 1. I think, again, there's just like enough of results. He feels safe.
Allie, can you take the green arrow off of Sean Payton for mine? Just so everyone knows
Oh,
that I had
damn,
him
big
there before.
flag.
That's true. Yeah, I mean, it is really close to me still. Like, again, yesterday, despite reports that suggest differently, I had it very close between the top 3. Now there are only 2 at the top. Sean Payton is a slight number 1. That first round pick is almost enough for me to put David Shaw number 1, but he fits in at number 2. Yeah, Sean Payton. Like, he's just proven he's done so many different things. He runs a great offense. I think there's obviously a lot of pros with David Shaw. The terminology is probably very similar to what they use. I think it's an easy transition. I wonder if he has enough of like the ass kicker mentality to, like, I kind of sold myself on that being what I wanted for the Broncos at this point. I'm not sure if he has that. So I'm going to bump him down to number 2, or I guess onto the list, but from yesterday down to number 2. And then I'll leave Jim Caldwell at number 3. David Shaw. And then for number 3, it's just, I mean, like you guys said, there's just, that to me is where the big drop-off is.
Oh, the drop-off is after Sean Payton for sure.
So Jim Caldwell is 3 for you?
Yeah. For me, if it didn't include the first round pick, then there would be a drop off there. But because of the first round pick, I don't see much of a drop off. That's a big risk. Because if it doesn't work out with Sean Payton,
You're the one who brought up Urban Meyer yesterday.
no. But again, that's
We're
why
talking about a college coach who does no pro head coaching experience.
no head coach,
Just like
no.
Urban Meyer.
But totally different personality than Urban Meyer. If you're talking about personality wise, then of the 3 from yesterday, David Shaw is the least Urban Meyer-y.
Yes, Urban Meyer also was 10 times as successful as David Shaw as a college coach.
But that's the success. I'm only worried about the personality. Like, the personality is what scares me from it.
there's no way you could go from Super Bowl winning head coach. There's not a big drop off between him and a college head coach.
You factor in the first round draft pick, and all of a sudden the bust potential becomes a lot larger. Like, the floor is so much lower because if it doesn't work out, then all of a sudden you've gone 2 years without a first round pick.
Think of it more as trading Bradley Chubb for Sean Payton.
But I mean, there is that part. But even in that world, you'd be saying, yeah, you lost some talent because you got the coach.
Or like Sylvester Williams. Trying to think of some other. Paxton Lynch.
It's
Late
true.
first round
It's
picks
true.
for the Denver
Jair
Broncos.
Alexander. I guess he was a little bit higher than late.
He was
like
13?
13 or so.
Wait, actually, we're gonna dive into Sean Payton a lot
Yeah.
tomorrow. I wanna change mine. I want someone that I really like in here. So I'm gonna change Dan Quinn to DeMeco Ryans.
Oh.
Now, I even feel guilty doing this because I don't think he really stands a shot with not having that head coach experience in terms of the Broncos' view of this. But when I think of DeMeco Ryans, and this is kind of a ceiling play here, but DeMeco Ryans, when I think of DeMeco Ryans, I think of Mike Vrabel. And I think, oh my goodness, how great would it be to have someone similar to that? We're going to dive into DeMeco Ryans when they interview him on Thursday. So we'll get into him, but that's a guy. Now I feel good about my list. I feel solid. I'm happy about it.
I'm dying at the commenters that Henry has shot number 2 after saying a few minutes ago Denver should not hire coaches with no pro
He has a dozen years of being a head coach.
Oh, Ryan, we made this official on yesterday's show. He is roller coaster Hank because yesterday he was sending us for a roller coaster ride. Just in that 2 minutes, roller coaster ride.
That's not a roller coaster. He has 12 years as a head coach.
To be fair, he didn't say. We could go to the tape, but I think he just said no. I don't want any more people without head coaching experience. So
Yeah.
you can twist that one and
Yeah. No, I mean, he has plenty enough experience for me.
So we're going on the twister for this roller coaster?
Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
okay, I like that.
And just for reference, so Jim Harbaugh finished 1 season ranked at Stanford.
Wow.
They were 4th after his last year when they won the Orange Bowl. They finished 6 seasons ranked under David Shaw.
Wait, but what 6 seasons?
Like 6 of the first 7. And then after
Last
that,
5
they kind of
seasons
fell
he
off.
hasn't been ranked.
Yep.
Or hasn't finished ranked.
Hasn't finished ranked.
That's twofold. One, obviously the shine has worn off a little bit.
Yep.
2, at least 1 or 2. You have to at least give credit for 1 or 2 of those first couple seasons to Harbaugh.
I mean, some of it. But
Especially
again,
with getting
like
luck.
when the team gets better, I guess they didn't get better because they finished 7th and 9th, something like that. Those first 2. But again, like they finished 3rd in the country in 2015, which is well after all that.
I really like David Shaw.
Peaked in the top 10 a couple times after that, even.
It does feel like he's just lost.
He definitely has.
Oh, totally.
And when we've
Totally.
talked about David Shaw, he was a very sought after candidate for the NFL jobs 4 or 5 years ago. Like it
And-
seemed
and
like
even
every
10.
team wanted what?
Even 10.
10
From
years ago?
through then.
Yes. But the past couple of years, he hasn't been.
Yep.
So all of these guys remaining, I think Jim Harbaugh, it seemed like to me that most people could have got behind him. It seems even like with Sean Payton, there's going to be some people that don't like it. There's going to be now a lot of, I think, mixed feelings on whoever they hire.
Yep, definitely.
And then, like you said, Ryan, after they have their introductory press conference, whoever it is going to kill it, and most people are going to be like, yeah.
Yep. Let's just get Sean Payton.
Yep. That would be tier 1 guy. Shall we get to the comments?
Let's do it.
Got a couple super chats coming in. First one from Dylan Smith. He says, my backup, if you can't get Sean Payton, is David Shaw. I think he can really establish a great culture. Next would be D'Amico Ryans.
Yeah.
But he was saying Ryan's.
Oh,
boy.
yeah.
Ryan's favorite.
It could be, yeah. Or just Ryan, like he wants all the Ryans.
Oh, just a
yeah.
full coaching
Yeah,
tree.
yeah.
Me, D'Amico,
Yeah.
Rob, Rex.
Yeah. Oh, man.
What's our dad's name?
We're having
Buddy.
characters. Buddy.
We could put together a nice staff.
You really could. Wow. Probably
Buddy
the,
may have passed.
The ghost of Buddy.
Wow.
I mean, there you go.
Haunt the other teams. Speaking of Ryans, we got a Zachary chiming in. Our guy Zachary Gardner says, got a cold over the weekend and still went to work today. Your pod is keeping my spirits up. Also, who's your favorite for coach that isn't Quinn or Peyton? Well, you'll love what we just did.
There you go.
It is kind of crazy that zero of us put Dan Quinn in our top 3.
Yeah, it's really true.
He is like, I could have just as easily taken him over Jim Caldwell.
Same.
There's not a whole bunch to get excited about in my mind. Like, he has experience. Again, the bust potential's low. I think he could kind of reset things. I don't see him being the guy who brings the Broncos back to glory.
Yeah.
But-
We just didn't do the Broncos any favors.
No,
True.
no. He is he's the ultimate John Fox hire, and I do not mean that in a bad way.
No,
because if Dan Quinn restores the team to being respectable,
Yep.
to competing for the playoffs, year in and year out, you would absolutely take that from where the franchise is right now. So when I say John Fox, that's not a bad thing.
All the way down to the fact that both of them made a Super Bowl as a head coach and lost.
Yep, exactly. Very true.
That actually goes back to
Yeah,
what we were talking
there
about
you go,
earlier.
There you go.
Wow.
Once you win one, you can't do
go.
it again.
You're
Magic's
toast.
gone.
And Bronco Nuts says Peyton is not elite. New Orleans missed the playoffs 40% of the time he was the coach. They made one NFC championship game in his last 11 years. Hard pass. 40% of the time. That's just jarring. And that's, again, why Jim Harbaugh is definitely my number 1.
If you think about it this way, though, the Broncos have missed the playoffs in 100%.
It's very
Of their
true.
last 6
It's very true. The jump you'd be
7.
getting is really good to go from 0 to 60%.
Yes.
That's a tough part, though, is like you look around at the other coaches. Who's done better Like, who's your alternative then?
Jim
Like,
Caldwell has made the playoffs more percentage-wise.
Percentage-wise?
Yeah.
That'd be what? 3? He'd be 50%.
No, because he was 3 and 4 and 5. Didn't he go playoffs 5 of 7 years?
I thought it was 1 of 3 with the Lions,
one
and
of
1
3.
and 2 of 3 with, or was it 3 of 4 with the Colts?
I thought it was
3 or 4 would have been 5
no.
or 7.
It was 2 and 3 with the Colts. Was it only 1 of 4 with the Lions?
I think
he just
it was
had a
only-
winning record in 3 of the 4 years. Okay.
I'll
okay.
double check.
So fair. Yeah.
Oh,
Lions
let's
are
see.
so terrible.
2 and 4 in the postseason. So we went to the playoffs 4 times.
Right.
Out
Out
of-
of 7 years. So above 500.
So above 500.
Above
But again,
50.
like,
yeah.
Just think
How
about,
big of a difference is it really?
Just think about, like, this year, just with the Lions. Everyone is, like, all over Dan Campbell.
Yeah.
Just drooling over him. They
Yep.
missed the playoffs.
Yeah, it's true.
They missed the playoffs.
Yeah.
And so I put that in perspective just because Jim Caldwell actually made it with them.
Yeah.
He had Matthew Stat. I think what Dan Campbell did this year is more impressive, though. But I see your point.
What
To
about
me-
Ben Johnson?
Yeah. I mean, I'd be all for Ben Johnson.
I mean, he took Jared Goff and Jamal Williams
Yep.
and a very
The best
good
offensive line in the NFL. Yeah, that's the
But-
tough part.
You know, he probably had influence on getting that
True.
offensive line in there.
Yeah,
True.
I mean, Ben Johnson is a guy I really wish the Broncos were talking to.
They just can't do it. They gotta miss out on. Why would the Broncos?
just-
Not to derail us so much. Why not interview everyone?
I completely, especially now that they're up to 8. Why not add 2, 3 more?
Especially
And
because they're doing these quick, like, half interviews.
what I don't like either is that they are completely avoiding the Nathaniel Hackett coach because just too much like Nathaniel Hackett. And boy, we can't do what we did last year. They're going too far in that direction.
There's no one really like Nathaniel Hackett, if we're being honest.
Well, in terms of a first-time offensive coach, offensive coach to be the head coach, that would be the Ben Johnsons of the world. It would be, there's like 3 or 4 candidates out there right now, and the Broncos aren't talking to any of them. I wish they were talking to 1 or 2 of them at
this
least.
is like not drafting Josh Allen because he kind of, sort of, a little bit looks like Paxton Lynch.
Exactly. Yep.
It's so dumb.
They're totally different people.
Yes.
But also, the number one thing the Broncos need right now is just a legitimate coach. It's just somebody who can go in there and run meetings and understand, like Jerry Rosburg. You know, Jerry Rosburg, who at least understands how things are supposed to work, can put things in order, can demand quite a bit. And I think that if that is the number one goal that you want to meet, it just makes so much sense to get somebody who at least has experience.
But you can get that from guys without experience. I'm
You
not
can.
saying I'm
You
not
can,
saying
but it's a
I'm so
gamble.
disappointed that they're not hiring Ben Johnson, but at least interview.
All right, I've just been hit with a heart out, so we have time for one more question.
Okay. On the website, I think we have one question specifically, and let's get to it because it's coming in from our friend Broncos 502. Says the Harbaugh news about staying in Michigan is exactly why I was out on him. He can't be trusted to not play leverage games each year. Also, when it's draft season, we always hear Denver should take best available. Well, with how it's looking with the Niners and their pick, I think the best available would be Sean Payton. Thoughts? Also, anyone else enjoy watching Brady fall off the cliff last night? Hope this
terrible.
stays true. There's 8 minutes left in the third quarter when this is posted.
I didn't enjoy it, oddly enough. It was
Weird.
too sad.
Yeah, when you bet on the Bucks to win, that was a sad game.
Oh, I actually had the under. Shout out the Mar, whatever his
Yeah,
name
he
is.
just needed one more.
Wait, if he just would have got
One.
Yep.
No way. So what was the,
45 and a half.
and it was a 45?
45.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Maybe he
Yep.
had the under.
Overbetters got an insane bad beat. I got a
Yep.
great
Yeah,
beat.
you did.
Yep.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah, I mean, you're also low-key selling high on the pick because it probably is only going to get lower and lower.
It's a good point. It's a really good point.
So, I don't know. To me, it's clear as day. It's worth it to trade Bradley Chubb for Sean Payton. But I got a lot of pushback on that when I put that out there. So it's not as obvious to others as it is to me.
Yeah, that's a big breaking point for some people. And there's a lot of news with Sean Payton that we're really going to dive into tomorrow. I can't wait.
Should be great. All right, I think that is going to wrap it up for us today. Great to be back with you boys.
Welcome back.
Appreciate
Allie, welcome back.
Appreciate all you guys in the comments. Hit us with a thumbs up on your way out. Let's try to get to 100, and we will talk to you guys later.